All right, so today we are going to do a video on how to cut bangs. So first you want to figure out how thick you want your bangs in the front, and then also the length of your bangs. So she's just gonna have kind of medium thick bangs. I'm gonna cut a little longer bang on her, more of like a curtain bang, but you can always go a little shorter. So I'm gonna start with creating my guide for the bangs. So we're just gonna start with this much hair. I personally like to start with a little less hair than maybe what I think I might cut. And then after we're done drying, seeing how they lay, and then maybe going in and cutting a little bit more off of the bang. Because when they dry, they will shrink up a little bit. So you always wanna start longer than maybe what they think they want, and then go in and texture them a little bit. We're gonna create curtain bangs on her. So we're gonna go a little bit longer. She already has them a little bit, so I'm just gonna trim them up. So when I'm cutting my bangs with the curtain bang, I want to go shorter in the middle and come out a little longer on the side. So when I blow dry her back, they lay really nicely, like that curtainy style. So when I usually go to cut bangs, I'm gonna bring all my hair forward. What I want to cut, I'm gonna bring it forward, and I'm gonna pinch it in the middle. Now I could cut it like this, and then what I would do is kind of just chop into it. And then when it separates, it's going to lay longer on the sides than it will in the middle. I want a little bit more of a dramatic arch in my bangs. So when I bring it forward, I'm gonna bunch it all together, and then I'm gonna flip it over like this. So when I release the bangs, it's gonna be a little bit more dramatic, and this assures that it's gonna be even on both sides. So you're not cutting a middle piece and then trying to measure and measure and measure, and you might get shorter and shorter and shorter. This is just one solid cut, and you're going to be even on both sides with cutting this way. So I'm just gonna cut this much off of her bang. And I like in my bangs to chip into it, so it creates a little bit more of that textured look instead of cutting straight across. I'm just gonna chip into it a little bit. All the way across. Now that I've made my initial cut, I'm gonna release the bangs. See how you've got that little shorter in the middle and then longer on the sides? And then we've got our sides that are even, and then the middle. What I'm going to do is probably chip into it a little bit more, but I'm not gonna do that before I dry it, because I want to see how it looks. So I'm liking this length on her right now for the curtain bang, because again, when it dries up, it's gonna pop up a little bit. But I want it to be a little bit more textured as we go along. So how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna take little sections of the bangs, I'm gonna raise it up, and you see that point up there? To add some layer, I'm just going to point cut into this section right there. It's not a lot of hair you're cutting off. You don't wanna cut too much off. So keep most of the length there. You can still see how my shorter piece comes from here and angles up, but it's just going to create a little bit of layer so the bangs fall a little bit nicer. I'm gonna do the same on this side. So I come over to this side, I'm gonna create my little point. I'm just gonna get rid of it, layer into the bangs. Again, a little bit less is more. And then last but not least, I'm gonna go onto this side and do the same thing. Make sure you're not cutting more hair than what you've already cut. And then just cut that little point off of the bangs. Okay? Then you can kind of measure it, make sure everything lines up with where you want it to be. And then what I'm gonna do to finish off my bangs is I'm gonna go in with my texture shears just to give it a little bit more texture on the bottom. So when you wanna add some texture into your bangs, just to give it a little bit of more like jagged edges so it doesn't look that straight across, and it also lightens the bangs up a little bit more, so when you go to style it, it lays really nicely on your nest. So when I texturize, I just bring it down, and you're not going to do a lot because you want to still keep the length of the bangs. This is just going to lighten up that heavy line at the bottom. So just very slightly, put nice texture in there. You can kind of see hardly any hair is falling, but you can see the line, it like gets rid of that really straight, heavy line at the bottom. Just go over and do it at the sides a little bit, and then this side a little bit too. You can see that nice heavy line there. Just gonna go in, piece into it with some texture. Now, if you still feel like that's not enough, you can also texture the same layering that I did before. So you grab your sections that you already layered, and you also texture that a little bit. So you got your point, go in with your texture shears just very slightly, add some nice texture. Again, just lightening up the bangs, not too much. You don't want to take too much out. You don't want to take too much more length off. You want to keep your bangs nice and long. And then you go to style and see if that is the look that you want. I styled them real quick with a round brush. I round brush them back, and you can kind of see how they're laying back really nicely like I wanted to. The sides are a little bit longer. There's nice bounce and texture in them. You can see a little bit of the layer on the side right here to just like lift them up a little bit so they're not so heavy. If you want to, after they're dry, I probably would go in and texture them just a little bit more. Or if you want to adjust the length, this may be the time to do it after it's dry, whatever your guest prefers.